I read something that you said, the world is in trouble.
I think I said the world is a mess.
So is the world in more of a mess today than it was when you were Prime Minister of Portugal?
Yes, I mean, we have a multiplication of new conflicts. When I was young, we lived in a bipolar world. No, you have the Cold War, on one side the United States, on the other side the Soviet Union. And when things might risk to be out of control, the two superpowers would normally find a way. Today we live in a world that is no longer bipolar, and you no longer have wars between countries. You have situations in which in one country there are plenty of different actors. You have government troops, sometimes international troops, ethnic groups, religious groups, political groups, and those conflicts are becoming more and more interlinked. If you look, for instance, at Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Afghanistan, you have fighters that go from one place to another. So there is a link between all these conflicts and this new global threat of terrorism.
This global terrorism is best embodied by ISIS, who have largely been defeated in Syria and Iraq, but is gaining momentum in destabilized nations around the world, most notably the Sahel region of northern Africa.
What does that mean in the context of the mission in Mali, what's being called the most dangerous place in the world right now?
What you have in Mali is a situation in which you have terrorist groups operating, but the peacekeepers were sent to Mali because of a peace agreement with several of the movements that did not include terrorist groups that are operating there. And so in Mali we have a peacekeeping force that has had more casualties than anywhere else.
And correct me if I'm wrong, UN forces, they can't fire their guns unless they're shot upon. But in Mali, they're actually getting into counterterrorism and fighting a war on terror.
That is the problem. Mali is exactly the example where the peacekeeping force by itself will never be able to solve the problem.
The operations in Mali could be the key to stopping terrorism as it spreads across Africa. And Secretary General Guterres gave one of our crews, led by correspondent Eris Rousinos, exclusive access to join UN peacekeepers on the ground on their most dangerous active operation.
We're about to head off with the Bangladeshi battalion based here in Gao, all the way up to Anafis, about 2 days drive north across terrible roads and hostile territory.
সবাই অস্ত্র পজিশনটা একটু ভালোভাবে রাখেন কারণ ভিডিও হচ্ছে দেখতেছেন প্রত্যেকটা মুভমেন্ট
সবাই এক্সট্রা সোজা রাখেন কানে দেখেন 8 নাম্বার সালামত কালামত দুন দেও না বসে যাবে হেল্প করো না তাহলে আমরা হেল্প করব আসল লোক আমার সামনে খানা দেব খানা সব বলতে পারে
বামে গুল জলদি চল সবাই একটু সোজা সাজো এটা করার উদ্দেশ্য হলো দেখছো
The UN sources peacekeepers from all around the world, offering $1,300 a month to recruits drawn mostly from countries like Ethiopia, Pakistan, and Bangladesh.
Tell us about the convoy and what we're doing.
We're going to Anafis basically, and it will be hard time basically because the whole ground you will find in Sahara Desert. So the weather is rough, ground is rough, and you know the United States, you know what happened in 24th of September.
What happened on 24th September?
It was mainly ID, improvised explosive device explosion. So 3 of us died on that spot.
Since 2013, more than 100 peacekeepers have been killed. That IED was one of at least 7 other attacks in less than a year, along the same route our convoy was now planning to take.
Good luck.
Mali became a hotspot for instability after the collapse of the Libyan regime, flooding the region with weapons. Jihadist groups and multiple Malian rebel factions vying for power left Mali in disarray. Today, the UN mission here, called MINUSMA, is responsible for maintaining a tenuous peace agreement that only half of the warring factions actually support.
Five years into the international intervention in Mali, and the security situation is still so bad that the only way to bring vitally needed goods up to the north of the country is in convoys like this, escorted by heavily armed UN peacekeepers like these Bangladeshi troops. Some of the groups fighting here, Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, they've been fighting the best equipped, most powerful militaries in the world for nearly 2 decades now. Do you think the UN peacekeeping force is capable of taking on such a powerful enemy?
Basically, MINUSMA is the peacekeeping force. We are here to establish the peace, not combat terrorism.
This policy cedes the initiative to jihadist groups like Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, ensuring that they will always determine when and where an attack occurs. This leaves the peacekeepers operating on the front lines in a precarious position when unplanned stops occur.
One of the civilian trucks we've been escorting has had a mechanical failure, so we stopped this village in the middle of the desert. The UN peacekeepers here, they're handing out supplies.
These supplies are part of the UN's Hearts and Minds strategy to win over villagers and limit the insurgents' influence.
Nursing doctor.
And we'd like to share our all the happiness with you. And we'd love to come to you as a friend. We consider it.
That's why we are trying to share our feelings, our cultures, and we are also trying to give them feelings that MINUSMA is supporting them so that we can win their hearts and get some information. Pray for us.
Winning the hearts and minds of these villagers is a crucial part of the peacekeeping missions.
The most complex perception about peacekeeping is the following. Peacekeeping was conceived, as the name indicates, to keep the peace. And so the idea is, let's have a force of the UN, blue helmets, that is not supposed to fight. The peacekeepers were supposed to preserve the stability of a country that has reached peace. Now, the truth is that most of the peacekeeping operations today are taking place where there is no peace to keep.
For outsiders, entering these unfamiliar areas can prove fatal. In October of last year, 4 US soldiers were ambushed in a local village on Mali's border with Niger.
U.S. officials described a scene of confusion during that October 4th attack involving some 50 ISIS-affiliated fighters near the Mali border.
The Islamic State showed off footage of the ambush, which some speculate occurred after local village elders tipped off a jihadist group to the Americans' presence.
Who is in control of this area of the desert?
It's no man's land. Nobody is dominating this area.
You can see just above us a German Tiger attack helicopter giving us air cover as we go through a most Arab-populated town that's hostile to the international presence here. We've stopped here waiting for a civilian vehicle, one of the trucks that's broken down.
That mechanical failure placed us in a region controlled by the MAA, an ethnic Arab militia accused of maintaining relationships with jihadist groups.
Qu'est-ce que c'est cette drapeau?
Drapeau?
Oui.
MA. Le drapeau de MA.
Mais ici, cet village, il est contrôlé par...
MA.
Oui.
Oui.
Last year, despite millions in aid, reported jihadist attacks in Mali were up 500% from 2014.
There's still a couple of hours of daylight left, but the Bangladeshi UN peacekeepers here are already setting up camp for the night. They're moving the civilian supply trucks into the middle and putting the armoured vehicles around them for defence during the night. The next section of the road, all the way up to Anafis, that's the most dangerous part of the journey, the most hostile local population where the UN face the most attacks.
Chicken, chicken.
What is this, chicken biryani?
Biryani.
We've reached the end of this leg of the journey. We're in the oasis settlement of Anafis. We're going to be handed over to the next UN contingent. We're not entirely sure which nationality they'll be. That's the nature of working in the multinational force.
Sécuriser le village. Au préalable, on va lancer notre drone pour aller voir encore le village. C'est là qu'on pourra rentrer dans le village pour prendre contact avec les autorités locales.
Il y a un risque des embuscades ici?
Oui. Vous avez vu la nature du terrain. Bon, c'est favorable à des embuscades. Donc c'est très dangereux. L'ennemi peut tenir ces points-là et nous attendre.
We joined Senegalese peacekeepers on their routine intelligence gathering mission in local villages.
village is entirely empty. There's no one here. It's kind of weird.
Viens, il n'y a personne. Ils vont venir. Viens, viens. Appelle-le. Ils vont venir.
What we saw in these contested areas was a sense of distrust between the UN and the locals.
On vient encore pour s'inquiéter de la situation sécuritaire. Voilà. Tout se passe bien dans le village, vraiment. Non. Il n'y a pas eu de problème. Jamais vu ça. Les gens que vous entendez ne viennent pas ici. Ils ne viennent pas ici.
And that distrust is driven in part because the locals often don't understand what the UN's role in the region is supposed to be.
Chacun a peur pour sa sécurité. Mais si au moins ils savent qu'ils ne peuvent pas assurer, qu'ils accompagnent nos forces locales. Et s'ils accompagnent nos forces locales, avec l'accompagnement de la population, on pourra faire quelque chose.
C'est ça, c'est très important. Nous sommes ici pour soutenir, pour appuyer. Mais la force, ici, est là pour la sécurisation. Et il faut avoir de la patience un petit peu. Parce que de jour en jour, je pense s'améliorer, mais c'est pas possible tout de suite.
As the attacks continue in Mali and across the Sahel, the deteriorating security situation is leading some to call for the UN mandate to be expanded in an effort to stabilize the region.
And what are the implications if the international community can't gain control of what's happening in Mali?
It's not only Mali, it's Libya that is not far away. Nigeria, the Boko Haram is also not far away. If this area fails, this will have tragic consequences for the people there, but the instability and insecurity will spread. Migratory movements will increase exponentially, and this will be a serious threat for all the region with very clear implications for Europe. We need to understand the challenges we face are global, that no country can do it alone. If we fail to do so, I'm afraid the mess will get worse.